Hey folks, it's time for another one of my driving lesson debrief vlogs. This one for the 26th of October 2023. Can't remember what lesson number this is or what hour number it is. It kind of depends when you start counting. We did Launceston today. It was quite action-packed. We covered a lot of ground. There was a lot of stuff going on. We started off at my house and he said, well, there's a couple of ways you could go to Launceston. We could do it on the sat-nav GPS, and he's got his little kind of phone out on the dash with a map. He says, or if you know of a different route or a quicker route, we could go that way. And I said, well, which route's the sat-nav or GPS take me, or which route are you going to take me? He says, up to you. So I said, well, I'll go the way that I know, which is to go up north towards Oakhampton, and then before you get to Sowerton Cross, instead of going under the overpass, you take a left on that road, which I thought was called like something dumb like the old A30, or it's maybe being renamed. Let me try and have a look. Well, Google Earth refuses to give me a name for this. I heard someone call it the old A30 before. I think it was my previous driving instructor. Whereas the new A30 or the current A30 is a dual carriageway, and that's where the confusion set in, I think. We drove up north that way, heading for Sowerton, and at Sowerton Cross I informed him the turning was coming up and we turned off to the left, and he says, oh, this will probably take us on the dual carriageway to Launceston. Go right, go right, go right! And before I knew it, he was turning off the road that I had in mind and taking us up a slip road onto the dual carriageway. And I didn't know anything about dual carriageways. I've had no... I might have gone on them briefly with Andy Easton back in the day, but I have, like, as of these current lessons, I've had no experience with going on dual carriageways. So we were kind of thrown in, and he said, it's a bit weird us going this way because I haven't taught you dual carriageways yet. That's for a later lesson, when we'll go through what to do on those. And so he said, look, I'll be your eyes, just accelerate up the slip road, get faster, get faster, get faster. Is there anything coming? He said, like, kind of at the last moment. I thought he was looking out for cars for me or something. So I was like, shouldn't there be some observations I'm doing here? I'm just kind of looking in the right-hand mirror and out of my blind spot. Should I be looking out the back boot as well? Either way, we joined the dual carriageway and he guided me through it. We were getting higher speeds and he reminded me that the maximum miles per hour speed limit of a dual carriageway or motorway is 70 miles per hour. I was a bit hesitant about going too fast. I think I was around 50 or something, sometimes going over 50, but not really going that much more than that. I can't remember if we got to 60 or not. Maybe we touched 60 at some points, but I was doing 50 and we stayed in that left-hand lane. At one point he went, here, I'll put on cruise control for you. Rest your feet off the accelerator. And I was like, what? I don't like this. I don't want this to happen. He did this thing and he pointed at the dash and this thing said cruise control on it. And he said, take your foot off the accelerator. And there was like a car computer trying to maintain the speed we were at on the road. And I was like, I don't like this, Tony. This is wrong. This is not right. A person should be in control of a car, not a computer. Like, the driver should have full control of the car at all times. And it wasn't like my foot was aching or anything, so he got me off of that and I got back on to putting my foot, like, positioned in the accelerator. It's not too bad. Yeah, I didn't feel any sense of aching, and you can kind of flex your foot from side to side sort of thing. Or if you just let go of the gas slightly, the speed doesn't dip down fast that much, so you can dip off it slightly then dip right onto it if you want to exercise your foot. And yeah, so I was telling him this wasn't the road I was trying to get us on, and he said, well, this road probably runs parallel to the road that you were thinking of. And there was a sign saying like Lifton and Lewdown pointing to the left, whereas if we went down the road I was going to go down, we would have passed Lifton and Lewdown on the right. Yeah, it was taking us the same route, parallel, faster, I suppose. You're allowed to do faster speeds than the road I was going to choose. But it was essentially a long way round to Launceston. I don't think he'll let me take that route again. I think next time we're going to follow the sat-nav through all the country roads, through like Chillerton, and get to Launceston that way. And he says it'd take like 30 minutes because sat-nav supposedly, stupid computers, calculates the fastest route and looks at it on, I don't know, Google Maps or something and draws a line, which is not advantageous all the time because sometimes something in real life changes and a computer doesn't know about it, because what does a computer know? It's like confined to a hard drive. It doesn't know when like an accident happens necessarily, or someone lays out roadworks, or there's been a change to the environment suddenly. Maybe a tree's come down or something. Like a computer on a hard drive, even if it's connected to the internet, it's not really going to know about that. If it's got some feature, it won't know about it for a while after it's happened. Probably take like, I don't know, half a day to a day to kick in and notice that something's changed about the road to inform people. So yeah, we went up this long, I won't say straight stretch of dual carriageway. The problem that no one told me about dual carriageways, that I found out today, was that, at least Tony said, you have to keep left. We're going down the road and I'm treating it like a national speed limit road where I'm like centred in my lane, and he's like, no, you've got to keep left. I was like, okay, I'll go a bit left. He goes, no, go more left. Okay, a bit more left. No, more left. He goes, we're getting too far to the left, aren't we? He says, no, we're not. And then he goes, you're drifting to the right. And I'm like, nowhere near the centre line. So he wants me like very left of the lane. And he pointed out the solid white line at the side of the road. He said, what's that called? I said, I don't know, does it have a fancy name like Belisha beacons? I would call that solid white line on the side of the road, or solid whites. And he said, no, it's a rumble strip. I was like, what? Really? Because a rumble strip is like mini speed bumps, but at a very short interval sort of thing. He said, look, we'll drift over slightly so the wheel's touching the line for a moment, and it just goes kind of like whenever the wheel goes on it. It's like a bumpy ringing sound whenever it touches it. So he says you could go quite far to the left, and you know if you're too far to the left because you'll hear the rumble strip ring sort of thing if your tyres touching it, and then you know you've gone too far. And I also noticed that kind of, well, it wasn't a hard shoulder, but there was a gap between the white line rumble strips and like where the grass began on the side there. It's not like there's like a solid wall right next to the white line or anything. There's space there, so you're not too close to hitting anything unless you're near those kind of car parking pull-in bay things. Another thing I briefly noticed that he says I wouldn't spot it, and I didn't really spot it, was like when a slip road was joining our road, and at one point was the only point that we moved over to the overtaking lane because there was a slip road. Apparently there was something that come up the slip road and I didn't see it, and there was a van ahead that was going too slow, and so he just overtook the van so that whoever was on the slip road could get on. Like, he held the wheel and kind of moved us over sort of thing. And yeah, so apart from that, it was just like I was wrestling the wheel to try and keep it left the whole time. It seemed like I was drifting to the right all the time, or trying to drift to the centre of my lane, to where I thought I need to be on the national speed limit roads. And then when we came off the dual carriageway and went back to the national speed limit roads, I realised I was in that habit of the dual carriageway travel, and I was too far left. And it's like, you're going too far to the left, you're going too far left, get back in the centre. So you got like, I hate the phrase muscle memory because it keeps getting used in weird ways, but I think people know what I mean when I say it, unfortunately. But you've got the muscle memory type thing of acting like you're on a dual carriageway when you've come off a dual carriageway, in terms of your position, veering off to the left, and your speed, you're going too fast and thinking it's slow. So when you come off the slip road, which we eventually did near Launceston, indicate left at the number 3 bar marker, and then kind of drift off at full speed, and then as soon as you get like 2/3 your car into the lane, you've got to brake, and it feels like you're braking to a very, 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 very slow speed, and that from that point on you're driving too slow sort of thing. But you're actually like slowing down to like 40 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour, in which case you're kind of still kind of fast in terms of pedestrians and stuff. So we came off this slip road. He said the roundabout we were coming up to off the slip road had a name. Maybe it was Penny Gillam roundabout, because it's on the corner of something called Penny Gillam Industrial Estate, which I marked. There are 2 industrial estates. It seems like Launceston's full of industrial estates that I didn't really notice at first. I'm looking at the map as I do this video to try and check where we went. So at this roundabout, it's just kind of off the Launceston junction of the dual carriageway. Slow down to a crawl, try and get second gear, try not to stop at the line but get very slow, creeping over it sort of thing. I don't think we did stop at the line, and then we indicated left first exit, which is about the easiest thing you can do on a big roundabout. Well, it's a medium-sized roundabout. It doesn't have tons of lanes, but it's not a mini. And then the thing is that suddenly you're in a speed limit zone and you don't know, because the idiots who design roundabouts put the speed limit signs for the new road that you're entering after leaving the roundabout at the roundabout. So you're contending with the roundabout, you're dealing with all the things about a roundabout. You finally get in your lane to get off, and you've passed the speed limit sign that tells you what you need to know about the road you're on, which is apparently still a national. So we're in 60. We've gone from second gear stuff, almost pausing at a line, to 60 mile per hour, and then the road kind of bends round there, and then it goes straight. And there's like 3 elderly people signs on the left-hand side of the road and a pedestrian path, but otherwise it's quite a fast main road. And I started kind of slowing down a little bit when I saw the elderly people sign. I saw 1, then I saw 2, and I thought, I better slow down. He's like, don't slow down, speed up. And it's like, well, there's elderly people signs. He's like, yeah, but it's still a national. We've got a surplus of elderly people, we have to start getting rid of them all. This is weird humour there, being an elderly person himself. So we kept going fast for quite a short run, it felt like. And maybe it's just because the road was straight, so time passed quite fast. And then suddenly it's like everything's different. Suddenly 30 mile per hour begins, and he said, do you see the 30 sign? So I slowed down all the way to 30, and now I feel incredibly slow at 30 miles an hour. Now he said we got a tight left bend coming up. I was like, what does he mean? Does he mean a left turn on a junction? And no, he actually meant a bend. He said, you might want to do this in something a lot lower. So I switched down, I think it was from 4th to 3rd gear. And he was like, no, a lot lower. And then so zooming in there, and then right at this bend, I think he put me into 2nd gear, saying you really need to be very slow for this bend, well, a lot slower than I was going anyway. And so it wasn't a junction. It looked like a T-junction on the approach, but it was actually just like a bend sharp that way with kind of a T coming off it that is a junction, and another upwards kind of T with a giveaway up there. And so it was quite tight, and I could kind of see what he meant because I did it wide and started drifting. They have widened the road at that corner. They've obviously had accidents there, so they widened the road markings. But yeah, I went kind of wide around it, and I was like, oh, okay, you do need to go quite slow around this. And then suddenly we're in Launceston. We're passing something called the Scarn, or Scarney Industrial Estate. And everything's busy, like everything's happening. There's pedestrians everywhere, there's cars doing all sorts of things, parking, pulling half out of junctions, cyclists, crossings, just the works, just everything. Suddenly, all the bits of town travel that you see in Tavistock, but a lot more of it in a lot shorter space of time. And he said, we're going to go up here, and the next thing we'll encounter is a double mini roundabout. I was like, oh good. I get to tick it off. I've got a list here, which is a bit like the score sheet that Tony keeps in his car for me, which he doesn't actually let me see except for like 2 occasions. So I wrote my own one. And I hadn't seen a double mini roundabout because there's none of those around Tavistock, and there's none of them anywhere else we've been. Probably see some when we get to Plymouth, but I hadn't done a double mini roundabout, so I'm like, okay, I'll get to do my first one of these. And it was, the one we dealt with was not really what I expected. We went down to 2nd gear. This thing approached. It looked like a mini roundabout. We paused at the giveaway line. I looked to the right. I couldn't really see a second mini roundabout anywhere or anything like that. I was concentrating on the traffic from the right anyway, so it was like a go. And they were like, steer left. Then we just went. and suddenly we're on this other road. I was like, where's the mini roundabout? Where was it? He says, just back there. You just dealt with it just then. It was fine. I was like, no, surely there would have been another set of give-way lines where we'd stop on another centre island. He said, oh, you couldn't see it? It was there. We just went over it. And I was like, please tell me we're doing that again, because I did not see the other mini roundabout white paint blob and the second giveaway marker where you're meant to pause if something's coming and look off to the right for the second roundabout. He says it was there, we just went over it. He says we'll do a few more circuits of that, so you'll get to try it again and maybe see it from another angle. You'll see the line this time. The problem is it's like immediate, like the two centre bits of the roundabout are like right next to each other, packed in tight. So the second you pass the first giveaway sign, there's only like a car's length between that and the second giveaway line. Did I say sign? I meant line. So it's that quick that you have to go from looking right, moving, stopping if there's looking right, stopping if there's something coming there, and then moving again. So it was just like, I thought there'd be more space between the two things to react, but there wasn't. Anyway, we went off left, followed this weird narrow road past what looked like a bunch of housing estates. I think we're on a kind of hill where the top of the hill was to the left of us and the bottom was to the right of us, and the road was perched on that. And we started going downhill, and then I realised where we were, because I've been walking in Launceston, as in take a bus in, get off, walk around the town centre. When you've done what you need to do, get on the bus and go back, sort of thing. And yeah, I recognised there was a car park on the right, and there was like an old medieval arch thing straight ahead down the hill. And I was like, okay, I know where I am now. I know where I am. I don't know where I am in terms of being a driver and how to deal with this place, because every familiar place looks completely wrong when you're a driver, because you've got to look for things you're never looking at as a pedestrian or a passenger. So we pulled quite sharply into a car park entry, went in the car park, went around it a bit, and he says, pull up anywhere you like. And I was like, there are no white lines on the ground here, they've all rubbed off. You can just see slight corners here and slight hints of where a white line used to be. And so I went, that looks like a line on the road, and I drove up to it and parked and stopped the car. And I was like, okay, do you realise you're side on to the car parking bay and how all the bays are lined up? I was like, no, that's the nearest thing I could see to a white line that exists anymore on this thing. Is like, yeah, all the white lines are rubbed off here. I said park anywhere you want, so that's fine. Yeah, I suppose with this car parking, I don't know, you have to remember how it used to be, or you have to guess where to go, or you have to wait for there to be other parked cars, or you have to find a place that still has paint and park there. Because there were some bays off near the wall that were still clear, but we were like in the centre aisles where there was like almost no paint. So we were stopped there, he went through some debrief stuff, talking about the mini roundabout, how to deal with it. Then we navigated around this car park to get to the exit. There was a very tight pass between two steep walls that you had to drive through to get to a junction, not to get out of the car park, but to get to an upper level of it. And it was like really tight coming in, then you had to pause, and I think I might have stalled there. I think I stalled there, and I can't quite remember why. Paused at the line, tried again, went round the corner, and then he's like, turn left to exit, and then there's like, not as high a wall, but another really tight thing you had to go through to exit, which was two low walls. I was like, oh god, I'm going to hit this. And he's like, no, just drive straight through, as if he was confident in my abilities to get the car through, which I wasn't at that time. I couldn't see the edges of the wall. We came out of that, went downhill, and then there's a speed trap before you get to the archway thing that marks the shopping centre. Speed trap's like a one-side chicane on our side, so that was easy enough to understand. It was like, give priority to oncoming vehicles because the speed trap's on our side. So we saw a car and I paused there. Car went by, I went around it, and then there's a junction, like a sideways T-junction there, and then another sideways T-junction up ahead, and no entry markers on the archway that could fit a car through. but it was like the shopping centre, so they just put no entry there. And I think in that stretch between the car park and this place with the archway, there's like 2 separate one-way systems. So you go through a one-way, it becomes a two-way, it becomes a one-way, it becomes a two-way. I think even further along it becomes a one-way again, and then becomes a two-way in a really short space of time. So when we got to this junction, he said straight ahead, and I was like, straight ahead? We can't go straight ahead, there's no entry. He says, no, just straight ahead for this tiny patch of land, and then we're going to turn left. I gave way right on the junction, moved forward, then it was a very tight first gear, turn left, past the archway now, and then we're on another one-way street. The problem with one-way streets compared to two-way streets is if you don't know that you're on a one-way street or a two-way street, a junction is a pain in the ass, because on a one-way street you're meant to justify or keep your car right as you leave the junction mouth, whereas on a two-way street you can't keep your car right on the junction mouth, you have to keep your car central on the junction mouth. So if you're on a one-way street, I mean, it looks very similar to like a housing estate street, so I feel like I might forget, and if I use the rule for exiting a junction mouth on a one-way street on a two-way street, then something's going to come on head on into me. It's like, oh my god. So one-way streets are a big problem. I have to really memorise, I have to really know when I'm on them and when I'm off them for that reason. And there's a lot of them packed in this short space. So then we did a really tight right and then a really tight left, and then there's a junction to give way to two-way traffic, which is outside the main town bus stop. So I knew where we were. We're in the centre of town, outside the main bus stop for buses coming in from Oakhampton and stuff. We went down there toward the entrance of Oakhampton Castle, if you know it. Not Oakhampton Castle, what am I fucking saying? Launceston Castle, if you know it. And right there is a give-way junction, followed immediately by another give-way junction on the left. Less than a car's width it was. So you come to the junction mouth position to turn left, you stop, you look right, then you move out to the left and you've got to immediately stop again and look right. And it's instantaneous, and again the paint of the road markings is completely worn off, so I couldn't see either of these things. At that point we drove off up what is some kind of secret one-way road that I didn't realise at the time when I was on my driving lesson today that this was a one-way road, but once I got back in here and got on the street view next to traffic lights, I could see a no right turn out of a housing estate. I was like flummoxed, like how many friggin' one-way systems are in this town? It's insane. So we got to this housing estate on the left, went in the mouth, did a bit of a slow circuit there. It was just, Tony's tunnels, parked cars on either side, that kind of slow navigation, give way to oncoming vehicles when you can. We got up the top and there's a stretch where there's like green flat grass on the left, and he said, I had a car accident here where I got into a big car crash. I was like, really? He said, yeah, the car was absolutely destroyed. A couple of chavs bombed it round the corner at high speed, like joyriding, and slammed into my car. I was like, what? Did you get injured? He said, no, I was fine, but the car was a complete write-off. I was like, oh my god. So even if I'm doing the complete right thing in terms of highway code and all that nonsense, I could still get just a fucked up car just because of some other people on the road, just some twats messing around or like drunken joyriding. Anyway, went around there, came out the junction. There's the traffic lights I was telling you about at it looks like a different exit to the housing estate that we were leaving. And there was no right turn. And also I didn't realise that the traffic lights were set behind a pedestrian crossing. And I wasn't sure to wait behind the crossing or go up to the line and wait. And it went green. And I thought I had to check to the right and check ahead before I dipped out into the road. But the green actually meant I have priority, I should just go into the junction and turn left immediately without looking, apparently. Which is really strange to me, like I feel like I need to look to see if anything's coming. Because there was no right turn for us, but that doesn't mean traffic wouldn't come from that direction. But I guess the green light for us means that there's a red light somewhere else where I wasn't looking, blocking off traffic from coming to where I am. So that kind of didn't sit right with me. I didn't quite understand what the traffic lights were doing for me, sort of thing. Then we took this left and it took us all the way up to that roundabout again, which I'm just going to call Penny Gillam roundabout because it's next to the Penny Gillam estate. So we went there and we did it all again. I'd entered into a circuit with him and I didn't realise, and I said, like, repetition is good, circuits are good, this is good for me because stuff will sink in. We did the whole circuit again. The double mini roundabout was a bit easier the second time and a lot easier the third time. I actually got a good look down there. We did some trip turning right after that chicane speed trap I was talking about before the arch, which took us to a junction that was on this like snake bend. It's not the type of junction that I've ever seen before. Like, we were going up a road and he said there's a junction coming up, get ready to turn right. I was like, okay, so it'll be like a T-junction, right? I'll be looking that way and I'll be looking that way. But it was like I can't even do it with my hands. It was like a loop like that. Like, we were driving up there and then there's this weird snake bend there. So I didn't understand what my eyes were seeing when I arrived at the junction. And he just had to say, just go, it's fine, go. I'm like, where do I look for oncoming traffic? He's like, you look sort of ahead in both directions for it. So that was interesting. I've never seen one of them before. He said all the places I went to today will be on the driving test route, so that's interesting. Then we approached the mini roundabout from a different angle, and he said, right, we're going to go straight on, then straight on this time. And I haven't been at this roundabout when something has blocked my exit, so that I'd have to wait at the second giveaway line. I haven't done that yet. So it was fairly clear, so we went around the first white circle to the left. Didn't have to wait for anything. Immediately, the second white circle, we went around to the left and went down to that car park again. At some point, I'm not quite sure how we got there, but we went to the Penny Gillam Industrial Estate and actually went inside it and took a left there. I'm not sure what's that first building? I'm street viewing. I don't even know what it is. It says Quarry Crescent. There's some kind of barn thing on the corner and a load of, like, I don't know, car fix-it kind of places along there. And there was stuff jutting into the road, and I don't know, I couldn't work out how wide the vehicles were that were oncoming and whether they were blocking the road enough for me to stop for them or whether I could get through. It was really hard to perceive. We did a circuit around there. There's like a wind farm in the middle of it. Looking on the satellite map, there's a football field in the middle of it. I didn't know that going around it. But there's definitely a big kind of wind turbine in it that we were going around. Trying to see if there's anything else we did around there. No, not really seeing anything new there. So then at some point he said we're going back, because we've got to get back, and we're not taking your route, so we're going to do a sat-nav route. And he put the sat-nav, and it was like on a phone, and it was kind of tinny and annoying, and I couldn't focus on it. And we went to the Penny Gillam roundabout thing, and we went sort of underneath the dual carriageway, and then there was my first proper central waiting area for turning right kind of road, which I haven't dealt with in a big way before. In earlier lessons you'll have heard me saying that Tony thinks like turning right in such a way should be banned completely because it's where most accidents happen, but he says these central waiting areas are quite good for doing it because they help you join, and that was to join a slip road. So we got on that, and then immediately he's like, gun the engine, like foot on the gas, get to 40 or 50 mile per hour now to join the road. And this time he got me doing a little more kind of looking over my right shoulder to do the observations to join the slip road, even though there's nothing coming. The distances cars look in your mirrors on the dual carriageway are a little strange to me. Like, you can't quite work out what cars are doing as easily when you're on dual carriageways. So we got back on that for a short while, and because he didn't want to do that route, he said, we're going to go back a different route, and there's an ambrosia factory nearby, we're going to go that route. And I was like, what? He's like, do you know ambrosia makes custard and rice pudding and all that? I was like, yeah, I know that. He said, well, it's all made right here. Some people think some granny makes it in her kitchen, but no, it's in this giant factory right here. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. So we passed some housing estates. We came off the dual carriageway at, what's it called? The Lifton Down exit, past some housing estates, went underneath the dual carriageway into Lifton, and then we turned off to the right at this Ambrosia Creamery factory. And then we were taking a weird route back to the area where I live, down sort of back roads through the countryside and stuff. And it was quite tricky perceiving when to be in gear 3 and when to be in gear 4. I think I was in gear 3 and sometimes 4 for like hill climbing. And then he got me doing gear like 5 a lot more during this journey, which is really strange to me. The positioning of gear 5 and 6 compared to the other gears is quite strange. I think I was trying to get from gear 6 to 5 or something, and I went 6 to 3, and he took me out of it, and he said that would kind of mess up the transmission or something. Yeah, I slipped out of gear to some weird position basically, and I didn't have time to look and figure out what happened. Right after the Ambrosia factory, there's a give way to oncoming vehicles because it's a tiny bridge. It's like the tiny bridge that's in Lidford near Wastor. We were at the position of give way to oncoming vehicles. There's kind of a wide pull-in point where you can wait to see what's coming. It's not a long bridge, it's like a medium bridge, but you can kind of see straight ahead, and it looked like nothing was coming. So I took the priority and went over it. And he said at that point, most driving instructors would turn right after this bridge because this is the extent of the influence of the Launceston driving test. It's like the outer edge boundary. Like, the test examiners won't go further than this place just after the Ambrosia factory. But we took a left and we went all down these country roads and stuff down to a place, took another left. We went to a place that I'd never been before called Chillerton, which is some random village just out in the middle of nowhere. It looks like it's far from anything. And then from there we just took a bunch of different roads back, and because I took a longer route to get there in the beginning, and because I was a bit slow coming back, like not knowing I could go into higher gear for a lot of stuff, Tony was like, "Oh, because you're not fast enough, we're 10 minutes late for my next student, so I'll just let you hop off here, then I'll drive off, and we won't do a debrief this time because there's not enough time, but you can work that out for yourself." So I guess I just got to kind of come to my own conclusions this lesson about what happened there. But I think we'll be going to that town, Launceston, quite a lot after now, because that's where all the driving test stuff happens. At some point we'll be going out to Plymouth and doing all the big stuff, the big deadly stuff that I need to know. Part of which I did today, I guess, with dual carriageways. But the giant roundabouts and the giant crossroads with near-side, off-side turns and stuff, which last lesson I had a talk with Tony about, and he kind of explained it a little bit to me. Anyway, I'll try and put some maps up on the screen while I'm discussing this, just to make it more interesting. I know it's kind of like a ramble, but if you listen to the ramble, thank you, and I'll catch you next time. Next week, I think we're doing a later time, like after 2 p.m, so it'll be later in the afternoon. Different lighting conditions, I guess. 2 p.m. until 4 p.m, and who knows what we'll be doing then, but I hope I get better at it. Thank you for watching.
Anybody hear that? It's an impact tremor is what it is. I'm fairly alarmed here.
Come on. We gotta get out of here. Gotta get out of here. Now, right now. Go. Let's go. Hey. Start the engine. Must go faster. Get off the stick! Bloody move! Look out!